Good morning. Welcome to our podcast of 2022. I have with me Brian Rosales today. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you for having me. How's your day going?
Great. Thank you. Brian is one of our house managers, and Brian has been with RAYA'S for how long now?
Been with Raya since 2017, so it makes about close to 5 years.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you for the dedication.
Wow.
I want to talk today so that our listeners and our viewers can get the perspective of what it's like to go through an admission at RAYA'S. And so you're heavily involved in that process, and you really do a lot with the family and with the resident and all the staff, because you kind of do an oversight aside from having our nursing team and our administration staff. So walk me through, Brian, kind of what that looks like on the family side and or the resident side when we tell you that there's a new admission coming.
So, during the admission period, typically we get together as a group, whether it's our executive director, nursing, house managers, and engagement. We try to connect with the family immediately to get an insight of their loved ones, right? So where they grew up, what are their, some of their favorite things that they like to do currently, back when they were growing up, so once we get that insight, it makes the whole admission process easier on every level. We communicate with each other, we're all on the same page, and then I typically like to meet with my caregivers to give them an insight of what to expect once they're arriving into the facility.
Got it. So as the resident is arriving, tell me a little bit about a few things that you want to make sure that are key points. Again, this is, this is aside from nursing and all the other departments. I'm strictly talking about on the caregiver level, because you're an oversight for all the caregivers. So tell me a little bit about, or a few things that you want to make sure that the caregivers are aware of, and that you yourself are aware of, so that we are really prepared for this admission.
Correct. So we start off by obviously having a welcome committee, right? So we'll set some things together, a welcome card. We like to get them a gift. And then also during the transition of admission, we like to get insight whether they're active. They like to walk around. Are they fall risk? What are some of the things or behaviors, challenging behaviors that they have, if they have any? That way, when they arrive, we have all the things in place, whether it's a wonder guard in case they try to get out, whether it's a fall alarm, a fall mat, or a bedside alarm to, obviously cue that something's going on with this resident.
Interesting. So you mentioned a few things that I kind of want our listeners and viewers to know what they are. So the one thing that you mentioned was a wander guard. What is a wander guard?
A wander guard is a little device that we have set up where we put either around the resident's wrist or their ankle that it sets off anytime they're near an exit. It will give us a notification on our alarm pad, on our monitor, or it's going to trigger our walkie-talkies that someone's near an exit, whether it's exit on the near side, back door, or the front side. So we're quick to act and not let them get away.
And this is basically used. It's not used on every resident. This is used only on residents that are a wander risk.
Wander risk, yeah, okay. That are highly active, can still try to manage the doors, try to get out. So yeah, it's to prevent elopement from the facility.
Got it. And then you mentioned bed alarms and chair alarms. So what are those used for?
So those are obviously safety purposes. One thing here and every year, and I would say any assisted living boarding care, is safety. So if these residents are fall risk, they try to get up a lot or anything like that, these alarms will set off and give us a notification that they're trying to get up, whether it's from the chair, wheelchair, or anything, their bed. Yeah.
So in, the history with RAYA'S, it's 5 years, right? Have you seen that the bed alarms, chair alarms have been proven to work?
Oh yeah, they're definitely effective. And it also depends on the resident.
Okay.
Some residents are, they can still feel that's something attached to their clothes, so they'll try to take it off. Other residents are, not so alert, and as far as they'll get up, the alarm will go off, and then themselves will kind of look around like what's going on. And it's helpful to the caregivers, definitely. It's definitely one of the best safety purposes that we have.
Great. Now, tell me, what do you do when, because this happens as well. So you're in a meeting and you're getting at a new admission and they tell you, Brian, this resident is coming in with a potentially, a lot of behaviors. What are some of the things that you do to help the staff understand and or the family that we are capable of taking care of this resident?
Well, obviously, that's one of the biggest things, right? And it's really well that here we have a lot of dementia training. That's one of the main things that we focus with the caregivers and making sure that we're all on the same page. So obviously one of the biggest things is redirection, getting to know the resident. If it's a challenging behavior where they get agitated during ADLs, then we make sure that we have the proper staffing, whether it's a 2-person assist, how to redirect them, offering them a snack, talking to them about something that engages them and takes their mind away from the agitation.
Right. Yeah. So in your 5 years of being with RAYA'S, you have seen a number of residents come through from, the resident who needs mild care, all the way through, an aggressive behavior. How would you say that it is for you in your experience dealing with a resident that has a lot of behaviors and the success of that?
Well, to be honest with you, and getting to deal with them on the day-to-day basis, getting to know them, it can be the smallest of thing of realizing maybe they have an infection going on, which is causing their agitation level to increase, or maybe they're not, communicating as well, and it's a change in their behavior. These are things that we look for on a day-to-day basis. And so once we identify these things, it makes our job easier, because then we can look for different ways to treat, different ways to redirect. And keeping families involved is also a big thing, because once we involve the families and keep them updated with what's going on, sometimes they can tell us, hey, they're prone to UTIs, or, look out for certain behaviors. This is what we use to, redirect them, calm them down. And so obviously keeping families involved and working with the nursing team, it's definitely a big help for our caregivers. Big
benefit, yeah. So now that you've touched on, what's done on a new admission, you have a resident that's been with you for a year. Obviously, they've been longer, but I'm just going to use a year as an example. So 1 year has come, approaching you very quickly. How do you make sure that you continue to ensure that their quality of life is there, that they're continuing, that all these needs are being met? Because at the beginning, there's a lot of assessments that are being done. There's a lot of discovery that's being done. There's a lot of things that the team puts in place to ensure that, these are their likes and dislikes. So the residents approaching a year, or we can even cut it down to 6 months. What do you and your team do to ensure that what you discovered at the beginning either hasn't changed or did change at the 6 month mark or year mark?
So obviously, I kind of touched on it, is keeping families involved. So we like to do care plan meetings with the family members and the rest of the team. And the reason why we keep the line of communication is so they can understand, hey, we've noticed these changes. They came in perfectly fine, and we're starting to see that they're getting a little bit more, or they need a little bit more help. And so we keep them obviously engaged. We create a plan of action where we're all on the same page, how we're going to attack, difference between whether they need more assistance with feeding, walking, or anything like that, to keep them engaged in the transition period.
Nice. So a typical question that a family always asks, and I'm sure that you get this question as well, if they're going to place their loved one, what do you really see as, from the time of placement, as the resident appropriately ages in place, and then we're approaching end of life? How long would you say that expectancy is the minute they move into RAYA'S? I mean, I know it's hard to tell, but what have you really seen over the last 5 years? Would you be able to tell a family, I don't know, we have your loved one might be with us for a year, 2 years, or your loved one's only going to be here for 6 months?
Well, you kind of said it. It's kind of hard to give a specific answer to that, but what we can tell you is here, we keep close tabs on, obviously everything, and we pride ourselves on the level of care that we give. So once we start noticing, hey, something's going on, then this is where we keep, obviously the family's very involved. But through everything from beginning stage to end of life, the level of care that we provide here is obviously definitely doesn't compete with anywhere else.
Yeah. And I definitely will take pride in saying that you and your team, I mean, we've had many residents who've moved in over, the last 5 years that have come in even on a gurney. Mm-hmm. And the family is saying, I wish I would have moved in sooner. And then we look back, 2-3 months later, and they're up, they're walking, they're talking, they're picking their clothes for the day. I would have to definitely say that's a true testament to yourself and your team for providing the excellent care. And again, it goes back to ensuring that everybody is, that interdisciplinary team is involved, correct?
No, definitely, because it starts from the bottom, from the very top to the bottom. It's all a group effort. We're all communicating, we're all bringing ideas to the table on how we can, better someone's life. Obviously, you touched on it. We've had a couple residents come in gurneys where they can't, bear any weight or anything like that. And with consistency and care and the motivation behind everyone as to why we're doing it, we've had some pretty successful stories here, and that is amazing, and it is a testament to from the top to the bottom. It's all one goal.
No, thank you. So the last point I want to touch on is, again, no one ever wants to talk about end of life, and it's inevitable. Again, I always use the term as, everybody appropriately ages in place. And so, a few things that we do for our families is start talking about what does that look like, and how can we help that family member transition through the different phase of their life. They moved in a year ago, 2 years ago, and we did so well, and now all of a sudden we took a turn for the worse, and we're looking like things aren't gonna be clearing up here. So what do you do to ensure that your team and yourself and you help prepare this family for this?
Well, obviously, the care plan meetings is a big part of it, and that's because it keeps the line of communication open. Some families, once they hear end of life, they're quick to shut down. They don't think it's obviously, it's time, but end of life doesn't necessarily mean it's right away. There's different things that we can go about it. Different, hospice is one thing that we offer here, where it's an extra set of eyes. It's an extra pair of, let's get someone in here, see what else we can do to oversee their loved one and to make sure that obviously everything is going as smooth as possible. It's not as, painful, which is sad to say, but yeah.
Well, thank you, Brian, for all of the information today. You are truly, valuable to RAYA'S and your role that you do, not only to the assisted caregivers, but our families, and most importantly, our residents. It clearly can, see, and it's evident that you are fully dedicated to making sure that from the beginning of the admission through the middle of the transition, through end of life, your main goal is to ensure that the quality of care is there for the residents. So nothing stops, right, from the admission all the way through the end. And it, again, testament to, your dedication and your willingness to help the family, help the associates, and watch everything every step of the way. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. So we look forward to future podcasts.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you.